Ali Year 12, and welcome to the 12th and final video for this section here on finance and loans. Today we're going to look at exercise 405, repaying a home loan, and we're going to do some calculations that are in many ways related to the previous exercise. So what I want to look at is this first example here. Right, we're looking to compare different loans perhaps, or to analyze them in some depth. Now, if we read that question carefully, we're asked to find the total amount made in repayments on this loan. We did this in the previous exercise. I know what the repayments are. I know how many repayments there will be, and so I merely multiply those together, right? Okay, so the total amount made in repayments is my repayment multiplied by 12. That gives me a year's worth of repayments. Multiply that by 25 gives me all 25 years worth of repayments, and I get $302,112. Now, the total amount of interest paid, okay, the interest, the cost of borrowing money right from the very beginning of the first video in this series. Right, that's what interest is, the cost of borrowing money. So we borrowed 120,000, we repaid 302. The difference between those numbers is going to be the interest. Okay, so the difference between the total repayments and the amount we borrowed, that's the total amount of interest. It's $182,112. Now, if that looks like a large number, you know, more than what we borrowed, more than the original principal, well, that's just how it is, right? That's not terribly uncommon when we're talking about a loan over a period of, say, 20, 25 years. Now, for part C, this gets a little harder. Calculate the equivalent flat rate of interest. Flat rate being keywords for simple interest. Now we want to find the rate of interest, not just the interest, but the rate, and a flat rate at that. So we're going to substitute into our simple interest formula, which is simple interest equals PRN. We know the interest now, we've just worked that out. It was 182, 112. We know the principal was 120, and N is 25 years. We're not going to mess around with months here because we'll be happy to get the rate as an annual rate. So we're going to put those things in to the formula and then rearrange it to make the unknown R for rate the subject of that equation, and evaluate it to find that. So let's have a look at what that's going to look like on paper. Okay, so you can see there we substituted into the simple interest formula. We rearranged that formula to make R the subject, and evaluating that we get about 0.060 something or other. So that's about 6%, right? As 6%, I should really say, because it's a rate per annum. Whoops, not OPA, just PA will be fine on the end to show that that is per annum. It's a rate after all. Rightio. That is calculating an equivalent flat rate. That's reasonably complex when it comes to doing these sorts of things, finding an equivalent flat rate of interest. But yeah, remember, just substitute into the simple interest formula. Flat rate is the key word there for simple interest. Now we have one more example, and this will bring us to the very end of the topic. Example 23 here. We've got a choice of two different loans. Now, in one of these loans allows extra repayments and one doesn't. Okay, you can see one of them has repayments of $644.30, the other $706.78. However, right, reading through all of this, digging through it, we see that we have an option here, perhaps, to pay $800 per month on loan Y, which I couldn't do with loan X. And if so, right, is that going to change matters? Right, because it looks like 6% per annum over 25 years, 7% per annum over 25 years. Surely 6% is going to be better. However, if I can pay that off sooner, well, I won't pay as much interest, perhaps. So let's have a look. What are we going to do? Well, I've got two loans. To compare them, I'm really going to calculate them separately. Let's look at the total repayments for loan X. Okay, and we might just start that off with some sort of a heading here saying loan X. Ooh, actually, you know what? Right, we'll underline that. You know, feel free to use some things like this, some subheadings and whatever else when you're doing your work. If it's a little complicated, if there's a few things you're doing, make sure it's set out neatly and logically, so not just whoever's marking this can make sense of it, but you can as well. Right? If you get distracted or lost throughout it, if you want to come back and check your work, it makes it so much easier if it's neatly set out and logically so as well. So for loan X, I'm going to have repayments of $644.30. Right, $644.30, and oops, actually I need to do something else there. My apologies. Okay, $644.30. Aha. Multiplied by 12. That's how much I pay per year. And then I multiply that by 25 repayments. Okay, this is the total that I'm going to pay on loan X. And what's that going to be worth? You know what, I've written it down here. 193, 290. 193, 290. That's what we'll pay for loan X. Let's have a look at loan Y. Oops. Now, with loan Y, we're not making repayments of $706.78. We're going to make repayments of $800. So you can see that $706.78. In fact, the 7% per annum and the 6% hasn't come into the calculations at any stage here. You really do have to sift through all the information and find the relevant parts. Now, for loan Y, it's going to cost me $800. Right? Now, how many repayments are there going to be? I'm just going to split this up a little bit. I'll show you what I mean by that. So 800 times 12 is what I pay every year. And I multiply that by 18. Okay, that's the 18 years of full payments. And also I've got another 9 months after that. So that's going to be another 800 times 9. Right. I could say that 18 years and 9 months is like 18 and 3/4 years or something, 18.75 years. Look, I could do that. That's not really helping matters. I think that's clear enough. Okay, can we see that the total repayments I make for loan Y is that $800 repayment that I make every month, times 12 times 18 is 18 years worth of repayments. Then I need another 9 months, another 9 repayments in addition to that. Okay, so when I calculate that, I get actually quite a neat 180,000. So comparing these two things now, loan X, I end up paying a total of 193,290, and loan Y, I pay a total of 180,000. Right? What would you recommend? I think it's fair enough to say I recommend, let's just do this. Oops. Whoa, what's going on? Hang on. Which load would you recommend? Remember, you've got a question. You've got to answer the question. I recommend loan Y because it requires or charges less interest. Okay, we've got some sort of reason. It might seem a bit facile, it might seem a bit sort of straightforward or obvious that we'll go with that. But the question is, which loan would you recommend? And just saying X or Y is a terrible answer. You've got to say Y. You have to explain which why you came to that choice. Anyway, that's it for comparing loans, right? We might compare them with an equivalent flat rate of interest. We looked at that in the first example in this video. Or we might compare them by simply looking at the total repayments. And that's what we've done in this second exercise of this video. If you've got any questions, if something doesn't make sense or could do with a bit more clarification, please jot down those questions right before you get to class, right before you hit the like and subscribe button at the end of this video. Please jot those things down so you don't forget. And when you get to class, you can ask your teacher straight away and make sure that you have a clear understanding of this before we get to the end of the topic. Okay, don't forget, assessment's coming up soon. Rightio, that's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in class.